Yeah, no, 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 no. Yeah, 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 no, 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 no. Melanated minds with the crown restored. Asiatic truth that we cannot ignore. Honor to noble Drew Ali, we rise. Nationality reclaimed, open your eyes. Hey, hey. Love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, the spark. No more strangers walking in the dark. Research first, let the facts ignite. Real Morse talk every week, truth over hype. This is knowledge, this is heritage, this is consciousness. Welcome to Real Morse Talk with your hostess, Prime Minister Durriyyah Bey. Hey. Yeah, no, 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 no. Yeah, no, 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 no. Shadow hour. 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 You are now tuned into Real Morse Talk. Melanated glow, crown back on the throne. Asiatic spirit, yes, we finally home. Honor noble Drew Ali, we proclaim. Nationality restored, we reclaim the name. Yeah, yeah. Love, truth, peace, let it spark that fire. Freedom, justice, lifting hearts higher. No more strangers, we know our part. Real Morse Talk, truth from the heart. Real Morse Talk, truth from the heart. Real Morse Talk, that's right. Yeah, na, 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 na. Shadow hour. Yeah, na, 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 na. Shadow hour. Yeah, na, 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 na. Shadow hour. Yeah, na, 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 na. That's it. Rise up, rise up, rise up. That's it. Rise up. This is heritage. That's it. Rise up. This is consciousness. That's it. Rise up. That's your heritage. That's it. Rise up. Never haven't been. That's it. Rise up. This is heritage. This is consciousness with your hostess, Prime Minister Durriyyah Bey.
All right, all right, all right. Welcome to Real Morris Talk. I'm so excited that we're at episode 16 of Real Morris Talk, and we have a special treat for you today because we're doing a special on Mother's Day. And so we know that there's Mother's Day that the prophet said that's the only holiday that the European probably got right. But we also know that we do our ancient Mother's Day too as well. So we're honoring our mothers today. And I have some wonderful guests for you. So I'm going to bring them on because they'll be able to tell you who they are tonight on Real Morris Talk. But first, and always rise and give praises to Allah and honor to his most holy and divine prophet, Noble Drali. I give honor to each and every one of you who found time to come on this call today to celebrate with us as Mother's Day. And I give honor to each and every one of you who do have mothers that you may have still living or mothers that may have passed. So welcome to Real Morris Talk. But I have to give special honor to and praises to the creator whom I choose to call Allah for allowing me to wake up this morning in my right frame of mind with my good common sense, life, health, and consciousness, the ability to stay on this road, the Islamic road, because sometimes it's rough and sometimes it's smooth. Islam wars, Islamism. So I'm bringing on my guest. Let's see. I'm bringing you on, but if I don't see you on the camera, I don't see National Grand Sheik. It says device not connected. They will need to connect to the mic and cam before they can add them on stream. So someone is not added to the mic and camera. We have to look and see if that may be Grand Sheik, who's not added to the mic and camera. But we do have, lots of guests for you today. We have, and I wanted to bring them all on. I'm just looking to see. We have Sister Anna Il. We have Sister Umi Il, and we have right now Sheikh Bilal Amin Bey. We're still waiting on our brothers that are here, National Grand Sheikh Tariq Bey, and also Brother Madudi should be here. But it's someone that's here. I believe it's Grand Sheikh because it says that his mic and stuff is not on. So I'm going to let the producer know so that he can fix that. You know, Sheikh Bilal, if you can let Shamsuddin know that I think that's Grand Sheik that says his device is not connected. All right, so we have to do that in order to bring him on. All right, so happy Mother's Day. We're gonna move on forward anyway because we know time never was when man was not or woman, and we have to keep things moving. So we have to just keep things moving. So we're gonna just keep it moving. And I just want to say happy Mother's Day to each and every one of you that are on the call. And listen, you today is about you talking about your mother, your being a mother, giving honor to mothers everywhere. Because listen, being a mother, being Umi is a very, very difficult, very, very difficult responsibility. And because of that being a very difficult responsibility, we know that we have to honor ourselves. And we know Mother's Day, we
I
honor
can't hear her.
every single day,
Hold on, you got to unmute.
every single day. I can actually hear Grand Sheik talking.
Islam.
Islam Grand Sheik. I can hear you talking. Oh, Islam. Yes, we're just trying to get everybody situated and on the call. It's I don't know, it's still saying a device that is not connected. I'm not sure. But you are here. And then Sheikh Bilal, I did see him, so he was here.
Yes.
So Sister Umi ill and Sister Anna ill. I don't see either one of you on. If you can go ahead and announce yourself, come on. I see Umi ill. Bring your camera down just a little bit. We see a ceiling fan. On there, and Sister Anna ill. A little bit more to the center. We almost got you in there. A little bit more. A little bit more. There you are. There you are. Assalamu alaikum. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, we're still waiting for Sister Anna.
So I can go on my left and books and get poems.
I'm here.
There you are. All right.
Like I
All
got a
right.
poem.
Assalamu alaikum. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to let each one of you, the only one we're missing right now is Brother Maduti. I'm going to have to check with him and see. Oh, there he is. I can add him to the stage. There you are, Brother Maduti. All right, so everyone is here. So I'm so excited to share episode 16 with you all for Real Morris Talk. And I'm so excited about today. We're talking about Mother's Day. So I'm so excited that we're all here because we all have stories to share about being a mother. You know, it's one of the most important works we'll ever have is being a mother. And you know, also when we have mothers, because I know a lot of us have lost our mothers too along the way. So we're giving all those honor to those mothers also who have transitioned on with the ancestors, but they stay with us. You know, the teachings, the thoughts, all that stays with us. And so we're here on Real More Salt to talk about that today. So I'm gonna let each one of you all introduce yourselves to the audience, and we'll get started. So we'll start with Sister Umi Il. If you would unmute your mic.
Islam.
Islamism.
All right. I'm Umi L, and I'm from what some would call South Carolina or West Coast, Morocco. And I can say my mother has gone on. She's gone on in other realms. Is there anything else you want to know about me? Like that's what I can give for right now. I don't have any children, but I do have experiences with a lot of mothers as mentors throughout my life, and I yield with that.
All right. And then we'll have Sheikh Bilal. You know, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit to our audience. Islam Sheikh, there you are. A little louder. We cannot hear you. I apologize. We cannot hear you. Can you turn your volume up on your device?
Reincarnated Prophet John Guinea. Okay.
You had woman called Rebecca already? Woman called Rebecca. Do you have this one? Okay. And the Moorish Divine and National Movement. I think that's all the ones I have printed so far.
Bilal, you're on mute. I hear Shamsuddin talking in the background. I'm not sure from what device. But Bilal, you're on mute. We cannot hear you. I'll come back to you.
Or did you use your spreadsheet?
I'll come back to you while you work on your volume. Maduti, just want to introduce yourself a little bit to the audience. Are you there, Maduti? Can everyone hear me?
I can hear
I
you.
can hear you.
Maduti, I guess I don't. Can you speak, Maduti? Maduti. All right. Let's move to Sister Anna Il. So we'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself to the audience.
Grand evening to you all. Anna L. Bey from the UK. 12:10 a.m. in the morning, in the rising. I am a mother of two sons, one of 45 and one of 33. My own mother transitioned 21 years ago, but I remember her and honor her every single day. I yield.
All right. And Maduti, did you get your volume fixed yet? All right, we're going to go to Grand Sheik. Everyone knows you, but go ahead and introduce yourself for the sake of the audience, Grand Sheik.
Islam, Tashriq Bey. My mother transitioned in '82, and so I had to do her hair and do her eyebrows like she always wear them. And she's very, very loving, and we were very, very close, which you already know, Grand Sheikus. And I look at Mother's Day as probably one of the most misrepresented days, but we'll talk about that later, because it's one of the great days that look more to the material than actually the actual workings of the womb and the fixing of the planet and the world and society with knowledge and the honor of the principle of the feminine principle that should be understood on a more civic and civilization level. However, greetings to all the mothers. This is your day that we celebrate, and it's not enough, and it's celebrated more materially, and it should be celebrated more metaphysically. I yield the floor.
All right, let's see if we can get Sheik Bilal. Is your volume fixed yet? Sheik Bilal, are you able to hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
They may can hear you. I'm just having a hard time hearing you. It sounds like your volume is down.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right.
Just want to introduce yourself to the audience.
All right. My name is Sheik Bilal.
The audio is breaking up terribly.
My name is Sheik Bilal Bey.
Right. You know what? Maybe do you have that fan on in the background? Maybe you can turn off that fan, Sheik.
As a matter of fact.
Sheik, can you turn the fan off?
Can you hear me now? Yes, I turned it off.
All right, proceed.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna let Shamsuddin come in and help you with your audio because I'm not sure you were here. We can hear you 1 minute, cannot hear you the next. I think a device is not close enough to your mouth.
Yeah, I'm having a problem.
Can you put it up to your mouth? Are you using your phone?
Okay, he'll come. Sean will come help.
All right, we'll go. I think we lost Madudi. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Or if he doesn't hear you, you might need to walk to him and see if he can assist you. All right. So welcome everyone again. So I'm excited again to be here. And so I can't wait to hear from each and every one of you today, on Mother's Day and being a mother and how challenging it is being a mother raising children. But some of us that do have children, and I wanted to give fathers' perspective also. So I wanted to make sure I invited brothers. We don't want to leave them out because, brothers sometimes they have to act in a motherly way too, because sometimes they have to be the ones that raise the children. But a lot of times they do not get enough credit for the work that they do. So we want to make sure that we honor mother today and also include our brothers in the conversation. All right. So it looked like, am I losing a few people here? I'm trying to see, are we having audio difficulties with a few? I don't know what's going on with a few things here, audio. So we lost Sister Anna Ill. We lost Sister Umi Ill. And
I'm still here.
We cannot see you. Did you turn your camera off maybe? Oh, there you
Yes,
go.
I'm still here.
I just changed my position.
Oh, that's okay. All right, so we'll have you up first. We'll let you go first and, talk to us about some of the challenges because we know, I don't think anyone really knows how hard motherhood is. Really, like we talk about it maybe in conversation, but I don't think anyone really gets to really truly understand what motherhood is until you have to raise children, especially being an Asiatic mother, melanated mother in this society with sons that you always, every time they walk out the door, you concerned. Every time they come in late or do not come home late, on time or call or whatever. Till today, as a mother, my son, if he goes somewhere and I know he should be back by a certain time and he's not here, I start to call him and everything. He will tell you because it's a shame, but as mothers, we have to always be afraid, for our children, mainly our sons. And so I want us to talk about that today. So we're going to have you up first, Sister Audio. I know it's late where you are, and I really appreciate you coming on the call because it's midnight there where you are. and it's like 9 o'clock where we are here. I mean,
Yeah, I
7 o'clock,
know.
not even 9 o'clock. It's just 7 o'clock. But we're going to go ahead and have you go up first and talk to us. Talk to us about some of the challenges of being a mother raising two sons.
Oh, okay. Where do I start?
Yes, and not only that, you're a grandmother, right? So you
Yes, I
have
am.
children and grandchildren, and
Yes,
mothering
three.
never stops. So look, I'm gonna give you the floor. Talk to us.
Thank you, Prime Minister. So, okay. My oldest son is 45, my second son, 33, and I have three grandchildren, uh, 12, 6, and 6 months. Yeah, so yeah, I have a full handful. But first, I want to say children do not come with a manual, and it's a learning that is a higher level than anything you could ever try to undertake. Um, my mother at the time, I was in the UK still. My mother at the time had immigrated across to the Americas, so I was here by myself. Um, I had, my mother's good friends around me, but there's nothing like having your mother around you when you need some help and advice. But yeah, the initial shock of realizing that I am responsible for this human, this little being. Apologies for the slip of the tongue there with that word we don't use. But it's I think we need to, before I go on, there's something I want to try to get across to mothers, fathers, and sons now of my age group. I'm the baby boomer age group. We have to get out of this habit of not speaking clearly to our children, who are now young men and young women, and entering into that phase of becoming parents. That old tradition of passing down knowledge from generations to the next line, we miss that, because there was a lot of questions I had, a lot of things I didn't know. I had to go to strangers to find out, because these are things that my mother never told me. And we need to get back into that tradition of not hoarding our knowledge and our wisdom, and passing it on to the next generation. But as Prime Minister was saying, my 45-year-old went out. I mean, he usually goes out and comes back in at a reasonable hour. But this one night, recently, he didn't. And I didn't know that he wasn't coming back, that night. And I could not sleep. 45, he's 45. He's a grown man, 45 years old. But as a mother, you cannot rest until you know that your children are safe. When my youngest was actually born. The second child was actually born in Manhattan, and he was in America. Well, we came back to England when he was a baby. Then we came back to America when he was 9, and yeah, because he came back to America at a time that he was used to, being able to go out to play and roam the streets with his friends, because it's a different atmosphere in the UK versus America. It was harrowing, because he didn't realize the dangers of the streets of New York in those days. So trying to get him to be, and plus he was bigger for his age. He was, 7 or 8, but he looked like he was 12, 13. And I had to try to explain to him that I know how old you are, you know how old you are, but other people in the streets are going to look at you as at your size and assume that they know that you're, you're a teenager or older. So, trying to instill in young men the dangers that, that can happen at the blink of an eye, and it's not seen as, or you shouldn't, or they shouldn't see it as being less than a man to make sure that they stay in contact with their mother, and we know that they're safe and where they are.
Yeah.
It isn't doesn't make them any less of a man. It's just making sure that somebody knows where you are, and if something does happen, we can take care of you. Another, my sons are giving examples today because the youngest one went on vacation to Turkey, and I said to him before he left, "What hotel are you staying at?" He didn't tell me. I said, "Okay, all right, no problem." As it happens, he got out, was getting ready to come back. His girlfriend had an issue with her travel documents. So who did he call? Mother. So I'm on the phone here in Birmingham, UK, and he's over there in Turkey. He can't get hold of anybody. The embassy's hundreds of miles away from where he's staying, and there's no there's nothing wrong with letting somebody know where you are. Doesn't matter. Even myself, if I go out, I let my children know where I am and how they can contact me, because you don't know what's going to happen from one second to the next. But my main concern is at my stage now, what I learned the hard way, I want to pass on to other young women and other young men, because I see all young women as my daughters. Even though they're not biologically my daughters, I see them as my daughters, and I'm not going to take this wisdom away with me. That doesn't make any sense. I need to share it, and I'm open. If anybody needs to reach out, don't be afraid. No, as the saying goes, no man or woman is an island. You need help to get you through every single day. It might not be something major, but you can't make it through this this timeline without help. I yield. I hope that's enough or too much. I don't know.
No, wonderful. We're at an ongoing conversation, so absolutely, we're excited. Ongoing conversation. All right, let's get a brother to speak out. So Sheikh Bilal may have had his. So Sheikh Bilal is a brother who does not have any children. He doesn't have any children, but he's helped raise a few children. So we're gonna bring him onto the mic. There you are, Sheikh. So you heard what Sister Anil was talking about, how raising sons and children and how always being nervous and afraid and being a young, well, when you were a brother younger, your mother always was concerned about you and things like that. Talk to us about some of the things that you appreciate about your mother and some of the things that went on as a child with you, with your mother, that, maybe you can share some light on, letting our young brothers know that it's really hard, or even the older ones, it's really hard on mother when you don't want to listen to what she has to say, and when you want to fight her on every little thing and not listen when we're trying to raise you right. Because I heard her say there's no instruction manual, but the prophet took care of that. Because in the Holy Quran, the More Science Temple of America, Surah 23, he talks about, on raising children. And so talk to us a little bit about that. Share your insight on that.
Okay. Well, for me, my mother, my mother born me she was 17. My mother was married to my father, and I was the only child. And my mother, I went to the Islamic school. I went to the Nation Islam school. So I was the only child. So all I can remember with my mother is always instructing me about something, doing something, right? And my mother always would read. And You know, so the false, you know, information that we get about, you know, the children not being raised by the parents right, and that's what caused the children to go wrong. That's not necessarily so, because I had all the instruction. You know, my mother was very, you know, she was very instructional to me. Everything I've done, you know, like I say, when my first, you know, mentally recorded birthday, my mother gave me books. I would think I was 3 or 4. So I didn't, you know, I didn't have toys and stuff like that. I didn't watch TV coming up until I got like 7 or 8. If I watched TV, I watched news or programs like that. And I sat around my mother and my stepfather, who was in the Nation Islam, and I listened, right, to them. That's how I grew up. You know, I traveled with my mother a lot. And then, you know, even when my mother was, you know, when she was on, you know, working by herself and stuff like that, or when she separated, when she was by herself at 5, my mother, you know, my mother, I was 5 years old. My mother put me on the bus, and I had to catch the bus to school at 5. And I remember this, you know, and I always reflect on the importance of the mother, because I knew even at 5 that was something that people would misunderstand. But my mother had to work. She had to take care, you know, us and stuff like that on, and she was on her own. My mother was a young woman, you know, and she sometimes my mother had 2 jobs. And you know, but my mother instructed me right, you know, and you know, so the things that I went to do wrong was of my own choosing. Because I, you know, like I say, one of my aunts used to tell me, she say, you know, you don't have no excuse, you know, because my sister, you know, she showed you and gave you everything. So, you know, so like I say, you know, the children have to, you know, listen. You know, you know, like I say, it's been 26 years, and I say to myself that, you know, we the children have to aid and assist, you know, and the children that, you know, so when I see children and I interact with children, you know, my mother remembrance come out, because, you know, she was a person that children used to, you know, run to and stuff like that, because she took her time to teach. She was always instructing, and that's what my remembrance is of. And that the prime minister, you know, remind me of that. She always instructing. I don't care what's going on. She always teaching something. You know, she always, and by example. So, you know, and you know, and in every woman, I look at the feminine principle, and I see, you know, I see that attribute, that informational, you know, that natural knowledge that they have in all, you know, and so yeah, I honor all the women. I honor all humanity. I thank the prophet for giving us, you know, the wisdom to understand how important they are to us. You know, I turn the floor back over to you, Prime Minister.
Oh, Shukran, Shukran. We got Madudi back. So we're going to do him, and then we'll bring up Sister Umi Madudi. We're going to add you to the stage again. I'm not sure if
Yes.
it keeps kicking. Yes, I hear that voice. So let's see here.
Yes. Well, I'm using a different device now. It should be a little more stable.
All right. Hmm. I'm trying to bring you to the floor, save it. They told me to add you to the stage, so I did do that. There you are. All right, got you. There you are. So you probably missed some of what we were talking about. You were on our so we were talking about some of the joys and acknowledgments of being a mother, some of the sacrifices mothers make every day, lessons
Thank
learned
you
through
for the
raising children.
Prime Minister.
Say that again. You cannot hear me? What did you say, Madudi? I apologize. I didn't hear you.
I didn't say anything. I was listening, Prime Minister.
Oh, all right. Yeah. So we wanted your outlook. So we're asking brothers too, like, because you have mothers and, the importance of having a mother, listening to what your mother
The
tells
audio's
you.
still breaking up, going in and out.
My audio is, I think he said my audio was breaking up. Am I breaking up, you all?
I can hear you clearly and
All
see
right.
you.
I can hear you clearly.
I can hear you clearly.
Yeah, I
Okay. I
can hear
think
you.
he fell off again. He's having a little bit of challenges. So we're going to go ahead and move to Sister Umi. Where you at, Sister Umi? There you are.
I'm right here. Can you
All
hear
right.
me?
There you are.
Okay.
I know you don't have any children yet. You're sort of like Sheik Bilal, not any children yet, but having a mother coming up and just kind of share with us some of the things that, having a mother coming up and, having probably sisters and brothers. Let me just make sure I can get you. It's on the why it's got you grayed out here. Let me try to fix that. There you are. So talk to us a little bit about that, with mother, because mother, even they say every woman is born with motherly instincts, right? Even if they do not have children, because that's how we were designed to create. And so even if you do not get to have children in that lifetime, there's still some instinct there. And also things you might have learned from your mother that makes mother so valuable. Talk to us about that. The values and joys of even having a mother for those of us who've lost our mothers.
Yes, my mother was like my best friend, and what I really, really loved was how she nurtured my gifts and talent growing up. Things that she saw, she knew that I loved writing, and even in times when it was hard for me to communicate with her, she would like, okay, write me a letter. She would say, write me a letter on how you're feeling, and what's going on with you, if it was hard for me to communicate. Um, to piggyback off of what Mother Anna L said, I had that experience with my mother where she told me that my grandmother did not communicate with her. And she made it very plain to me, very young, that she wanted to have that open communication with me. And it was important. So even if I couldn't express myself face to face with her, she would tell me, well, write it down, let me know how you're feeling. And she wanted that relationship because she knew how it felt to not have the communication with my grandmother. So just, I really, really am grateful that she taught me that. And even though, like you said, I don't have any children, I do have like cousins that I've inspired over the years. And she recently just told me this, how I grew up in Southern Baptist Church, and how sometimes I would just sit them down and take my younger cousins, and we would write on the back of the program, and I would teach them, like how to write little things. So even though I don't have children, I can testify that that instinct is there, just because sometimes a lot of my cousins who I've just sat down with them and taught them different things. Um, so that's one thing I say I can appreciate. And even my mother showing me and my brother not keeping us away from the struggles that she went through, she would tell us. So it's like when I got older, I knew the sacrifices that she made for us. So I think that's important that parents do let children know the struggles that they're going through, so they can appreciate that, and they can see, oh, my mother did this for me. And it's not, so much into like adulthood. You can see it even in my teenage years. I could see it. So I think that's an experience that maybe some parents may want to give their children, is to let them know, what's going on. I get that, children may not need to know everything, but some of that struggle, yeah, I think is needed. That's just my experience. I have a whole lot of experiences as far as watching my mother us. And I'm just grateful that she mothered us the way that she did. She didn't play with us. She did discipline us. And a lot of my peers, she say, oh, your mom's so mean. I'm like, no, she just don't play with me. Like, so that's one thing that I really do. I am glad and I'm grateful that she, disciplined us. And it wasn't just her, it was my grandmother, it was my aunt, my uncles. I had a whole village. My father was in the military, So he wasn't there all the time. But my brother and I, we did have a village, and even going back to when I grew up in the circle, there were people in the circle, who were there to help us out. So, but I'm just very grateful that I had the mother that I did, and it's important to also, kind of look back at your mother's life and see the things that maybe subtly, spiritually, that they give you that's later on for your life, especially if you're like me and you come from the circle and now you're like in the knowledge of it. And I'm like, well, okay, my mom used to sit and watch sci-fi all the time, like MacGyver, all of that. And I'm like, that's interesting. And I, explore her life when it comes down to that instinct, that aspect of it. But that's been my experience, and I yield with that.
All right, shukran with that. And you and I had a conversation too. We were talking about discipline. I remember us having that conversation, and you were like, I'm not sure about the discipline part. And I had to break it down to you why it's so important, because you're from a generation of mothers where they do not believe in disciplining their children. And they think that, like, just talk to them, sit in the corner, Jamal, and just be quiet. Or you know I'm not going to tell you again, Jamal. And Jamal does it again and again because there's no consequence for Jamal. But when you sting Jamal's little behind and sit Jamal down somewhere, Jamal, remember that sting. Now, do I want that pain again on my behind, or am I going to listen to what my mother says? So a lot of times, I know a lot of people do not believe in discipline, but I strongly believe in discipline. And there is a line between discipline and abuse. I don't think you should spank a child because I think you should spank a child because of what they do wrong, and let them know there's a consequence for that action. That's what spanking is for. But I don't believe if one of your children getting on your nerves and they talking too much or whatever, and you should hit them or whatever. That, to me, that's not discipline for action. That's wrong. But a lot of times if they're mouthy with their mouths or talking disrespectful or something like that, you have to discipline them. And I tell you, I share that with you because I'm a big fan of watching Roland Martin. I do not agree with everything he says, but I do watch him. He's the only Asiatic news outlet and communicator to let us know what's going on in our community. So I really do appreciate his podcast. One of the things that when they were talking on there, it was a bunch of girls, and Shikala and I spoke about this, girls that got beat up by the policy enforcers. And it really bothered me. But one of the things was they were running their mouths. And I'm not saying you cannot talk back because you have the right to speak. But when you start saying a lot of disrespectful things, them Europeans is not going to tolerate that. You don't have no protection. No man was there to protect you. Nobody. And then you would probably got him killed. But there was no one there to protect you. And you just study popping off at your mouth with them, being cute or flattered with them. That means that they do that at home and they do that to other adults. And so that policy enforcer wanted to let you know that as far as I'm concerned, you still a nigga. And he slapped her down and, handcuffed her. And then the other girls and all of them wind up getting arrested and abused by these policy enforcers. We have to take some, accountability and get discipline back in our homes, because we don't want, now, me as a mother, I would have been devastated if that would have been my daughters and probably wind up getting locked up or shot. But the bottom line is that we have to teach our children to do better. And now, I'm not saying be afraid of them. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, but it's a time to run your mouth and it's a time not. And what they should have done was like, what? I don't know what I did incorrectly, but please let me call my parent, call your mother, call your father. You don't even have to have a conversation back and forth with them, with words. Let me call my parent because I'm an underage child. You're stopping me. I need to get my parent on the line, because that would have been more protection for them. And we have to really teach our children, especially our daughters, because they have to stay protected. And so you and I have that conversation. Popping that mouth off sometime at the wrong time can really cost you the rest of your life. Now, we know that they're going to try to charge them or whatever, and they always charge our children as adults. The policy enforcers were dead wrong, and everyone in the Asiatic community is saying that, but they're not in the power seat where these people can charge you with something and throw away the key. And so we have to think about our situation and actions and what we need to do as a melanated community to keep these things from happening to our children. And I think what has been taken out of the home, the Europeans did it, was discipline. Parents do not discipline their children. And because they do not, a lot of them are suffering because of no discipline. So you and I spoke about that because I know you all from a generation of not being disciplined, but I'm telling you, discipline works and it helps. I was disciplined as a child.
Yes, my mother, she did discipline me. She did. Like I said, yeah, I had a whole village of people discipline me. So yeah, I got plenty of spankings, plenty of plenty of lectures. Like and I tell anybody, that's the reason why I didn't cut up in school, because I was like, man, I go home, I'm going to have a spanking from my mother, spanking from my grandmother,
Exactly.
spanking from my aunt, lecture from my uncle, lecture. No, I don't have time for all that. So yeah, she did spank, she did discipline me, and that was just like how can I say, a blip in my journey. Just getting information, and I'm like trying to process it, and I'm like, so whippings come from slavery, like, and this was way before I came into the movement. Some headphones.
No, I think that might be I'm not sure who that is. If everyone can stay muted until you're on the actual mic, that would help with the feedback. Yes, so and I appreciate that. Yes, so I know there's a generation out there, and I remember my daughter and I was having this conversation because when my grandchildren at my house, I don't have any discipline problems at all.
Mm-hmm.
But my daughter said, I want them to be able to express themselves and all that. And I said, okay, how's that working out for you? It's not, because you can't let children, when we look at the Holy Quran and more science of America, the prophet give us instructions now on our teaching our children. And I'm going to go over some of that after each speaker speaks, because I do want to know that we do have help now. It's been here since the Quran was published in 1926. And we do have instructions now, and we need to help follow those instructions to keep our children safe. You know what I mean? We want them to grow. I want to grow old and see my children, they have children and my grandchildren have children, and not be in trouble, not being beat down, not being, disrespected in the streets, not being girls being knocked down by European men. Every time I visualize that, the anger that I have to keep my thoughts from that anger of them disrespecting us like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what way do we have to keep that from happening? And that's what we need to be doing in this community and talking about. Shukran. I'm going to see if Madudi now, let me see, did I lose you again? I see Madudi. Let's try.
No, I'm a lot more stable now, Prime Minister. I changed computers and I got a different device for the Wi-Fi, and I can hear you all crystal clear now. Before it was breaking up and so forth, but all things in divine order.
Yes, but you look so royal, regal in your purple with your fez and that flag. You look
thank you.
Right. All right. So you have children, and so you and I have talked about your children before, and raising children as a father. And I know a lot of times, sometimes when we're younger, we don't do the things we need to do to make sure our children are stable, and we don't realize what we should do until we get older. But what would you say to mothers and fathers? Because this is Mother's Day special, but we want it from the father's perspective of making sure our children stay safe, because we can't protect them from everything. We want to try to protect them from most things. And give us a little bit of information about your mother and how she raised you.
Oh, well, thank you for the honor, and thank all of the Moors that spoke before me. And I got a truckload of gratitude for you, Prime Minister, and for all you do, you and Grand Sheikh Taj Tariq Bey. Yeah, but my mother was the 7th child of 13 children. And she didn't have a lot of formal education, but she was a very wise woman. And she raised me as best she could, because I was brought up in a household without my father, because my father left my mother for dead when I was still an arm baby, before I could even walk. He thought he had killed her, but fortunately she survived. So of course, after that, she didn't trust him. So I was raised up in a household without my father, my biological father, you know, and, but my mother, she was, you know, I miss her so much. You know, she transitioned in 03. And I've learned a lot from my mother, you know, because as I said, you know, she was a very wise woman. And early on in life, I didn't really realize or appreciate her wisdom, you know. So a lot of what she would say, you know, pretty much would go on one ear and out the other because I thought I knew better because, you know, I was running the streets real young, you know. So, you know, most of the knowledge that I had respected was street knowledge. And my mother, she wasn't about the streets, you know. But anyway, the bottom line is that, you know, my mother, you know, she disciplined me when needed, you know, and I'm grateful for it today, you know. And see, I was fortunate, very fortunate to have a biological mother and to also have a mother-in-law that treated me and loved on me like her son, you know. So, you know, so I was fortunate to have two mothers, a biological mother and a spiritual mother, you know. And I love them both very much, you know. And the two of them, you know, have been real pristine examples of womanhood, you know. And like when I was younger, I didn't really respect women, you know, because I was molested at the age of 3. And so my first addiction was sex, you know. And I didn't have a childhood, a normal childhood, that is, you know. Because I'm a still recovering sex and love addict, you know. But fortunately, you know, because of examples like yourself, Prime Minister, you know, and other, you know, real women, you know, that represent the divine feminine, you know, I've learned to like really respect, love, and honor all women, even the ones that don't respect themselves, you know, and because I realize that they don't realize who they are. They don't realize their true nature, their true potential, you know, so I love on them, you know, anyway, you know, and I respect them anyway, you know, and, you know, and like, you know, like my mother, she's here with us now, both of them. They're here with us now, you know, because for those of you that's on the call that may not realize it, when our people transition, they're on the other side, you see. They're still alive, probably more so than before when they was in the body, you know, but they just parked this vehicle, you know, and they still alive, you know. Our ancestors, they want to help us, y'all, you know, but see, we have to cooperate with that help. You see, we have to, you know, there's a part that we have to play also, you see. And also, I apologize for my bad connection earlier, you know, when Taj was speaking, you know, it was breaking up all bad. And like, and I know better to get angry because that ain't gonna change nothing, you know. But I hope to hear him now that I got a good connection because, you know, I love it when you and Taj and other, you know, experienced Moors teach and share, you know, because y'all share from the heart, you know, like me, like I share from the heart, you know. And also, Prime Minister, I don't know, like if you want me to, because you had said to me earlier that Taj wrote a poem, and you asked me if I could write one, and I did. I don't know if you want me to read it now.
Well, we save it like towards the end. I'm excited to hear it.
Okay.
I'm
Okay, good.
Bring Grand Sheik on, let him talk to, and then we'll have poems shared at the end. I'm excited. Cannot wait to hear these poems toward the end.
Okay.
But one thing I did want to ask you, so a little bit about your children, because I know that raising your children and the difficulties mother has with raising children. What would you say to some of the brothers who could assist women into helping raise children to do a better job with trying to keep our children safe?
Thank you. That's an excellent question, Prime Minister. I have 7 children, 12 grandchildren, 2 great-grands, right? And that's 3 biological children. I wound up raising them as a single dad, and that was quite an experience, and it was a growth opportunity for me, being a single dad of 3 small children, it was like really eye-opening. And it was a truly growth experience, and because it taught me, among other things, that now it's really not about me at all. All my decision making I had to consider my children first, and the other thing is like when I was given that ultimatum, because the mother, she had called me like 3 a.m. If you don't come get him, I'm gonna put him in the system, and I got up out my bed, I went and I got my children. I went to court, and I got legal custody of them because I didn't want them to be like going through no tug of war thing based on her mood swings or what have you. And I spoke up for her, because like the next day, one of my sons said, "Daddy, mommy don't love us because she gave us away. She didn't give away the other ones." But she had other children too, And I said, "No, son." I said, "Your mother loves you very much. But right now she's going through a lot of pressure, and she did the right thing by giving me the opportunity to raise y'all, and see, for the other brothers and sisters that may be listening, hear me well. Our children, or anybody for that matter, but we mainly talking about our children right now, right? Our children may not remember what we say, but they will always remember how we make them feel, you see. And speaking ill of the other parent is not a wise thing to do. No, it really isn't. It really isn't, because the only difference, what I'm learning, the only difference between a child and an adult is the adult has more experience than the child. The child is capable of being hurt, having experiencing joy, all the feelings that we're capable of, the children are capable of those feelings, you see. And feelings of resentment and hatred, it's very possible as well, you see. And like, because see, remember, beloved, wisdom is, first of all, thinking before we speak. See, because once something comes out of our mouth, we can't pull it back. You see, so we should think before we speak, and we should listen more than we speak, and we should watch more than we speak. That's how wisdom is born and experienced, you see, and especially where our children are concerned, you know, because like my three youngest children, like of course, when they were younger, they didn't really understand, understand, or overstand, you know, our situation, you know. But now that they're grown and on their own, all three of them have said to me numerous times, "Oh, Daddy, I'm so glad you raised us." You know, back then we didn't really get it, you know. But now that they're grown and on their own and have children of their own, they'd be like, "Wow, Daddy, I don't know how you did it," you know. And I told them I did it with a lot of help. That's how I did it. See, again. These 4 fingers and this thumb on our hand, it's a lot of wisdom there, see? I allow other people like Prime Minister to help me. And I still need help. Because like the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Z. York, who was my first spiritual teacher besides my mother, you know, he said, no one knows less than he or she that think they know it all. So I stay teachable, you know, because I know just enough to know that I don't know enough, you know. And there's certain things that each and every one of y'all know right now that I don't know. Please share with me, especially stuff that you find that works well in your life, you know, that helps you to feel better, do better, be better. Share it with me. It may help me to do better. See? And trust me, if it don't, right now, I'm going to put it on the shelf. So when I do need it, I can go back and pick it up and go, wow, thanks for sharing. You know? Yeah, you know, and then too, like with that child support thing, right? These my three youngest children, I took care of them since the day they were born. Yet, child support, because the mother was on public assistance before I even met her. And so child support came after me, saying that I owe them back child support. And I tell you, that was rough. That was a rough experience for me, y'all. You know, because, you know, I'm like, wait a minute, you know, and then they found out my bank account, took every dime. Then I really, like that Brooklyn street dude really wanted to show up for real, you know, because I had that justifiable anger, you know, and no matter how much I talked about it, it wouldn't go, you know, so honestly, I went and I sought professional help. You know, I got a therapist and a psychiatrist because I wanted to step to them, you know, because like, here it is, I done took care of my children and you're going to turn around and take my money, putting me in a position where I cannot do for them in the name of them? Oh, that justifiable anger had me like I wanted to step to them for real, you know, honestly, sincerely. And I knew that that would only make matters worse. So I sought help and I had a psychiatrist, a therapist, and I was even on meds for a short time. I hated that. It made me feel high, you know, and it made me feel anxious and stuff. And but I continued to talk about my situation, looking for a remedy, looking for a solution. And so I heard about this network marketing business, right? Optimal Telecom was the name of the company. And I went to the seminar. I liked what it was. I got involved. I started making money. And the money that I was making was off the books. you know, so to speak. Like they didn't know nothing about it, so they couldn't take a dime of that. So I was able to care for my children again, to take care of them again. And so, you know, the depression and stuff went away, you see, because that's one of the things that I'm learning is that when you live in the solution, the problem goes away. It's really just that simple, you see. And the source desires life to be simple for us, not complicated. We the ones complicated, you see. But there's an answer to every question, and there's a solution for every problem, you know. But we have to ask, seek, and knock, you see. Yeah, you know, so the bottom line is that, you know, I went back to the psychiatrist. Thank you very much. I no longer need your services. I went to the therapist. Thank you very much. I no longer need your services. And that crap that I was popping, I threw that crap in the garbage and I never looked back, you know. But I say that to say this, right? Like that child support crap, that scam, you know, it really affects a lot of us, you know, in a very negative way, you know. And, you know, brothers and sisters, think about what I'm saying, you know. And forgive me for giving unsolicited advice, right? But it's coming from my heart and not just from my head. It's coming from my experience, right? Avoid that child support crap because it don't help. It only hurts our community, you know. Avoid it, you know. Brothers, do what you can, you know. Like even if you and the sister don't get along, that's okay. You know, we can agree to disagree without being disagreeable, right? Think about the children, what's best for them, you know? And sisters, you know, that few little dollars that you get from child support, it ain't worth it. Trust me, it ain't worth it. Work with your baby's fathers, you know. And even if he's not, you know, contributing, suggest that he seek out some help, right? Maybe somebody else, like maybe me or Taj or some other brother with the experience can help him to see the practicality and the wisdom and the power in doing for self and doing for your children, you see? And then everything will work out a whole lot better for everybody, you know? You know, so I don't want to be long with it because I want to hear more from Taj and the rest of y'all, you know. But I hope what I've said, because I'm sharing from my heart, I hope what I said can help somebody, you know, because we as a people, we need more help than anybody else on the planet, for real. And it don't make sense for us to be, you know, not being loving and kind to each other. It don't make no sense. Getting all bent out of shape over crap, over bull crap. I'm going to share this in closing, right? Because this is some wisdom that I was fortunate enough to grab, right? Don't sweat the small stuff. The secret is all of it is small stuff. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, shukran. So one of the things I wanted to, you know, because I heard what you said about the child support. So I want to comment on that because, you know, some of the problems with that is that sisters, if they don't get support, unfortunately, from the government and no one's supporting them or they have no way to take care of their children, if they don't get the child support, then they don't have a way to support their children. And if they don't take and give the information about the fathers or whatever to try to get that assistance, then what are they supposed to do for their children? So the bigger problem is more that in our community, we need to be more supportive of our children, and fathers need to take on the responsibility of those children. And also, women, we have to stop getting pregnant by men who don't mean us any good anyway, who might already have 3, 4, 5 children. And then we're having children on top of that, too. And he's not taking care of any of them. So it's a lot to have that conversation later on in another topic of Real Morse Talk. But we can't leave the sisters struggling without a way to take care of their children, and, unfortunately, that's one of the ways we have to do. Our men leave us out there to go to the government to give funds to raise our children. And so that's unfortunate. So I would never tell a woman not to do what she needs to do to take care of her children, because that's the instinct of a mother. Mother is going to do what she needs to survive to take care of her children. So I just wanted to share that portion, but we can certainly do another episode of Real More talking about that and children in the system and all of those things and how we could avoid that and make better, better for our community, better for our children, better for our mothers. All right. At this time, I'm going to bring the National Grand Sheik, because he's been sitting back there quietly. I'm going to bring him to the floor with some of the things that we talked about. So I want to keep us mindful that we're talking about the joys and acknowledgments of motherhood, the sacrifices mothers make every day, lessons learned through raising children, advice for younger mothers and also younger fathers, the importance of preserving family values and legacy. So important. And I want to get everyone to kind of give their opinion on that. We're going to bring the Grand Sheik to the floor at this time. Grand Sheik. Assalamu alaikum, Grand Sheik.
Welcome. Islam.
Islamism.
I was when I talked to you, I had talked to you earlier, and the poem that I wrote actually for my mother, shortly after she transitioned, and I wrote the poem on her solar return of 82 when she passed, when she veiled. And so I'll share that poem. But in general,
Taj, we want to save the poem
later.
I apologize. We just want to save the poem.
Yeah, I said I'll share that later.
Yeah, sure.
I'll share that later. And
so, Taj, what do you think about some of the advice you would give younger mothers and brothers and the importance of preserving family values and legacy?
It's like this. One of the things that I see is problematic with us is the misconception that these circumstances of our disorder are part of our culture, and they are absolutely not. It is operatively a groomed operation, which is a parentis operations called parentis, which is a legal term that's used for people who are under occupation. And of course, the people, for many of them, forget that we're under occupation. And because for so many generations, with the problems that we've had with our families, there's an assumption that there's a problem with the males or a problem with the women, and they think it's themselves, as opposed to being groomed falsely under what is known as dead parents culture, which is dead culture. And without knowing that, the geopolitical nature of those operations, we assume that we have to do something special when we really have to get back to nativity. And nativity is the nature of life itself. And logically, nativity comes from the womb. And so we have to look at these things more metaphysically and then apply them metacivically into the real world in the foundation of the nature of the matriarchy, which is actually government itself. And logically, because woman carries the womb or the gateway to the physical world, by nature, she's a governor, not by attitude or just mere opinion. And this is one of the reasons why the hybrids, when they occupy people, they attack the family, they attack the male to remove the male from the family, and then they attack the womb And so many of these issues are caused by that, and by women not necessarily being aware of the parentis operations may assume that the cultural conditions that we're operating from is a norm among us, and it is not. Therefore, it is important for us to know that one of the reasons they have problems with, i.e. their males, is because that's part of the war efforts of colonial operations under what is known as unum sanctum and dum diversas. And so the male is removed from the family in order to destroy the core comprehension of family and continuity of family. Not knowing that, people assume that that's the culture. It's not the culture. We're actually trying to function under war operations, and not looking at that honestly is being disingenuous, and not addressing it is also being disingenuous and irresponsible. And so it's like, if you're not looking at the engineering and what has occurred, you can't fix what you don't know is operatively in the culture. So it's important for us to approach that. And I think, again, that's one of the, as we talked earlier, not incorrect, but less important aspects of Mother's Day, as an example, when the people approach it more just on a material acknowledgement basis and not actually on the truth of the attack on the womb through the parentis occupation, which very few people are willing honestly to talk about, because it's so it creates accountability, and it creates responsibility, and people try to avoid it, so they feel it's better, if they buy a bunch of flowers from the occupiers and give it to their mother as a gift and an acknowledgement of the good that women do by nature, raising children. And that's the way we look at it. And that's a kind of it's really beautiful on one level, but at the same time, behind the shadows, she's suffering because she lacks the support that actually should be there. And so the parentis issue should be honestly dealt with. But that's kind of like what you call the hard, real geopolitics that everybody wants to avoid. Logically, the hybrid occupiers aren't going to talk about it publicly, but we need to be more honest among ourselves. And also with the Sanger operations for breaking up the family, and they hide it under the military operations known as schism eugenics, i.e. this is a part of the Sanger operations coming from the United States Corporation Company governing body that has its voucher route operation from Fleet Street, England, also known as City of London, operating in the judicial systems here at North America, and the non-support system was actually part of the Sanger operations, and people need to know that. However they deal with this matter is a secondary to that. The fact that people don't know that is in fact the operations, and it's not just because a man is not in the house. They have to know that the men were chased out of the house, and they started it in earnest at North America in around 1959 and 1960, focused that as a war operation. And the women should know that, and the men should know that. What they do with that information, everyone has to be accountable on their own. But not to be aware of that is irresponsible and also damaging, because we start looking at each other and fighting with each other when the real deal is the operatives, and it ain't attitude. It's structured in the municipal corporate operations that are actually run from the City of London, and people don't know that. So colonial operations has not ended. They just made it more sophisticated into corporate operations. Be aware of that. And so if we really want to help the women and honor the women, tell the truth, and get on with the battle, and that's why we got to get back to nativity. In the political realm, it's also called nationalization. And it's broader than people think it is. You know, I think they look at it many people look at it from just an informational point of view relative to correcting corrupted or neutralized history. They may look at it from a data point relative to the rule of law of hereditatements, dealing with jus sanguinis, distinguished from jus soli, which is all important. Yes, it is. But as the brother was saying, you know, we need to fix that, because it's not dealing just with attitude. And logically, because they've spent so many generations pitting the men and the women against each other, we have not had real honest conversations with each other on those matters with the men, you know. And then for the last few generations, the men have been mentally disconnected from their families anyway. They're more on a paradigm of simply trying to survive in a situation, and then often discovering when they dedicate themselves to their families, they're ripped from their families, from the attitudes of the women who have been operating under that parentis mentality and thinking that's their culture or that's their real thoughts, not knowing that they're operating under the Linnaeus mind control MK Ultra operations for quite a few generations, particularly since around 1960, reinforced. And we need to know about it so that we can intelligently counter it if we choose to. But if we continue with the dead culture, sometimes known as Black culture, then at least we should know about its origin, so that we can have a choice to either maintain it or we can actually use our intelligence to counter it. However, with that being aside, all honor to all the mothers for all the pressures that you've sacrificed through all your lives, etc. And as Sister was saying earlier, you know, the women, the elder women need to know these information so they can teach the young sisters, so they don't fall into that parentis cultivation, because it's not mere attitude, it's a military operation. And the people don't know it's a military operation coming from the Sanger Project. So that whole dynamics is part of the geopolitics that should be taught within the context of nationalization. And as you see the nations around the world nationalizing, because it's exactly that principle that they're actually countering, etc. And we need to have a clearer comprehension of, even when you see the questionnaire that Noble Drew Ali presented to us, where he has the mother in his hands and she's unconscious, and you see 9 drops of water coming off her body. That has a metaphysical and a metaphysical message, and we need to be more aware of that. Nevertheless, for the time being, all honors to the mothers. And I remember when my mother, when I was 4.5, my mother took me to school. I hookied the first day of school. My mom took me to Whittier School, around there, right off Mount Vernon and 8th and Walnut. And my mom took me to school. I had these little Buster Brown shorts on and these Buster Brown shoes. And my mom used to comb my hair. She used to have this brush in a cup of water. And I know many of you brothers remember this. Mom had the brush in a cup of water, and she'd brush your hair up, and this little twinkie thing be sitting up there like that. And I used to always mess it up, and my mom would brush it up again with water in the brush. And she took me to school, Whittier School. And I remember very well, Miss Chase, that was my teacher. My mom took me to school with my little Buster Brown shorts and my Buster Brown shoes, and kissed me on the forehead. And I turned around and I didn't see my mom. I hookied the first day. They set me down. Shucks. I was looking out the window, looking for my mom. That wasn't happening. Not that day. I was little, but I found my way back home. anyway, I went to where the railroad tracks is on 10th and Sycamore Street was a railroad track where the train ran overhead. And I still remember the number because my mom used to always teach us, remember your address, 1015 Sycamore Street. I was 4.5, but I knew all that stuff. And my mom, we used to always draw and stuff like that, and write and stuff like that. She used to always sit and teach us. But anyway, I hook eat, and I was eating blackberries on the side of the road where the railroad was. I came home, blackberries all over my clothes and everything. Mom said, "How'd you get here, boy? You hooky?" I didn't know what hooky was, but I know I wasn't going to school. But anyway, we were very, 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 very close, and my mom was always loving. And about a year and a half later, my mom got sick for a while, and then my dad had to keep us and stuff like that. But we've always been very, very, very close. And she would teach us how to write, and we drew a lot. I used to draw a lot. Me and my brothers, we used to draw a lot. And my father was a barber, and I used his tools. I remember I also cut my sister's hair. Mom came in. My sister had these little plaits and stuff like that. I was working them clippers, boy, and the shears and stuff. Mom came home, said, "Oh, my baby." I cut her plaits off, but I remember all of that. But we were all close and everything. And then she would use some kind of herbs and stuff like that. And my Aunt Bert used to live on the corner from us, and to grow Shakira's plaits back. That was funny. Well, it wasn't funny at the time, but when we grow up, and we see how mothers have to deal with the little things that children do as they're growing up, the learning curve that we go through, and she has to deal with the different personalities and dressing us and keeping us together and stuff like that while dad is working and all that stuff. Enough cannot be said. And it's so important for the women really to really learn the geopolitics, what has happened to us, so they can take more conscious control of the womb in a more realistic, metaphysical, and metaphysical way to help solve the problems of the human family, and particularly for us here in North America. And all praises to the mothers for your patience and your tolerance, and understand that a lot of things that have been done to us and among ourselves has been based in false concepts and misdirections, confusion, and occupation. Let us all get together and solve it. Anyway, happy Mother's Day for every day. I yield the floor. I can't hear you, Prime Minister.
Yeah, so shukran for that. So let me just say that I know a lot of the things that we're dealing with is a lot of things are designed, where the European structure, colonialism has made it where our families are very hard to be able to keep together. But one of the things that we have to do, and I agree with Malik El-Shabazz, regardless of those situations they put us through, it's up to us to overcome those situations. As Brother Madudi was speaking earlier when he said, for every problem, there's a solution.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I teach us in our school too. Our students learn that don't give me no excuses. I don't want to hear nothing. If there's a problem, you need to fix it. And so that's what we're a broken community, and we need to fix it, because the European takes advantages of us being a broken community, and they keep us broken and they keep interfering, and we need to fix it. The biggest way to fix it, as I was saying, is through education. I think the sisters need to learn to be more educated, to not just be having children You know, every time you feel like you're in love with someone or you want to be with someone or just having children to be having them. And I think brothers should learn not to just want to be laying down with sisters and having sex
Yeah.
unprotected and not making babies and leaving them. So it's all about the knowledge base. So regardless of what the European puts in our way, it's up to us to overcome it. And this is our problem. It's our problem. So, you know, I just wanted to speak on that. So we can't keep using them to what they do. We have to learn to solve our own problems and we have to fix our own communities. Because right now our system is so broken. It's unfortunate the way that the young brothers are being raised with just mothers and they don't have fathers in the household. And then the father may have 3, 4, 5 children, like right around the same ages or stair step. And then these mothers don't get along with one another. Instead of them trying to come together as a unification and say, well, I have a child, let's work together to raise these children. They want to fight each other. And all that's by design. So we have to come from that mentality of wanting to fight one another all the time about situations and try to overcome them. And because right now, what's going on right now, there's not going to be anything left for anything for us to do but to come together and overcome some of these situations that we do have right now. So shukran for that, Grand Sheik. I really appreciate that. I want to go back to everyone because I do want to talk, but I do want to come from our Circle 7. I love this hardback. This was given to me as a gift for my born day about, I guess, maybe 8, 9 years ago now, almost 10 years. And so I'm going to come from the Surah is 23 or chapter 23, and it's holy instructions for thy children. And when people say that, they be like, well, for thy children, because the prophet is saying we need to use these for our children. That's what it's saying. Because they're like, oh, why would that be for the children? Because as parents, we need to use these instructions for our children. So let's make it clear. All right. So I want to read what the prophet told us. And listen, my children will tell you, I use these instructions to raise my children. So when they say we don't come with the instructions, the prophet fixed that for us. He gave us instructions. So I want to start with the first ayat. It's 13 ayats. I want to read all 13 ayats or 13 verses. I want to read them. So consider that art a parent, the importance of thy trust. The being thou hast produced, it is thy duty to support. That means all of us, sisters and brothers. That's the first ayat. The second ayat. Upon thee also dependeth whether the child thy bosom be a blessing or a curse to thyself, or a useful or a worthless member to the community. Now, I don't use the word blessing. I know this is kind of ancient, archaic type stuff, but I use acknowledgement because I don't want no one consecrating me with blood. But the prophet used what he had at the time. But it says it depended whether the child. So I want to go to the rights of the child. So in the rights of the child, it also states whether that child grows up to be a useful member of society. So this is really important in this particular ayat because the declarations of the rights of the child also talks about the same instance where it's up to us as the parents. We have to make our children be useful. And I'm not talking about in their society. I'm talking about just in our society. If we take the time to raise our children and stop trying to be their friends and be their parents. Ayat 3. Prepare them early with instruction and season their minds with the maxims of truth. You can't lie to your children about the Easter Bunny and Christmas and Santa Claus and all that stuff. You lie to them when they're young, and then when they start growing up, they start lying to you. And they can throw it back in your face. When you told me with Santa Claus and Christmas and Jesus, which I see a lot of more still using that Jesus. You got to get off that. There was no man named Jesus unless you're talking about the blonde-haired, blue-eyed man. Then that's Jesus. But our Jesus, we don't have that. His name was Yeshua or Emmanuel, not Jesus. See, a lot of more still posting Jesus. So I'm like, where you know better, you do better, Moors. We don't have the Jesus thing. We know better. Okay. His name is not Jesus. Jesus is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed man. Okay. That's not real for us. Okay. So we got to stop using that. We got to fix those things. Ayah 4. Watch the bent of the inclination, set them right in their youth, and let no evil habits gain strength with their years. That means as your children are growing, they bend back and forth like this. They grow up with friends right there and other surroundings. And so they take on other people's attributes. So you have to make them understand what the right attributes are to stay on the right course. That's our jobs as parents. A lot of times we as mothers are so busy trying to work and hold down the household that we're actually letting the public school system, this whole public school system and the streets raise our children. And then when you come home and sit down, you want to know, where did this child come from? What is these actions? Who is this child? Where does these actions come from? It comes from us as mothers leaving out of our household to try to raise our children and work, and it just doesn't work that way. So we have to get better as a community. A wicked son or daughter is a reproach to their parent, but he or she that doeth right is an honor to their gray hairs. So you don't have to worry about your child getting smacked down in the street by some policy enforcers if they're raised right in their homes. More, this is real stuff we're talking about. The soul is thy own, which means it's your child. Let it not want to cultivation. That means your child that you gave life to, whether you plant the seed or produce the seed, that means that's your responsibility. That's what that's saying. You know, and the seed with that soweth to also shall thy reap. So if you are sowing those unfortunate seeds to your child, like I was talking to a sister whose son was a big time drug dealer in Baltimore. I will never forget this conversation. And he was murdered, right? Which no parent wants that for their child. But you knew he was a drug dealer and you helped him sell the drugs. So now you want to cry about someone killing your child when you knew the life that he was living. You know that way is either jail or death. So I'm not saying don't grieve your child, but don't try to make it like it's the whole world's fault that you knew what your child was doing and you was reaping the benefits, so it was okay when you were. But now that he's gone and you can't touch him physically, then you're upset. Those are thoughts and choices that we have to make. We have to teach our children better. Now, once you teach them, and if they go out and do it anyway, then they've made their mind up to do so. But you've done everything in your physical and spiritual and mental power to keep them on the right path. But as parents, it's our work. It's our responsibility to guide and direct our children. Teach them obedience, and they shall acknowledge thee. Teach them modesty, and they shall not be ashamed. Teach them gratitude, and they shall receive benefits. Teach them charity, and they shall gain love. Teach them temperance, and their health shall increase. Teach them prudence, and fortune shall attend them. Teach them justice, and they shall be honored by the world. Teach them sincerity, and their own heart shall not reproach them. Teach them diligence, and their wealth shall increase. Teach them benevolence, and their mind shall be exalted. Teach them science, and their life shall be useful. Teach them religion, and their death shall be happy. And let me speak a little bit about the science. And when we talk about science, you notice that when I'm in the kitchen, I'm talking about that science in the kitchen. So when you're doing cooking food or cooking herbs or those type things, that's science, right? And we know that that's added. Science is knowledge. Knowledge, to do the word knowledge is science. So the acknowledgement and knowledge of knowing how to do these things, cook herbs, cook food for yourself, grow food for yourself. These are the things that we need to teach our children. We have gotten so used to everything being convenient that we've gotten away from the whole foods, and we're doing processed foods, a lot of processing. So our children are unhealthy. Their minds are not straight. The girls are growing up all kinds of ways, looking all kinds of ways and bigger than they should be. So they start off, unfortunately, at a larger size than they need to be. So then they run into health problems. It's a lot of things more. It's a lot of conversations we can have around this. But I wanted to let you all know that we do have instructions from the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And we can try to interpret them any direction you want to, but it's very, very plain here on what we need to do. So we have to go back to our households and take care of our children. And yes, when they start growing up, because it starts very young, when they're very, very young as mothers and you allow them to be disrespectful to you because you want them to express themselves, well, that expression comes to disrespect. And then before you know it, you have a bunch of disrespectful children. And of course, we have younger children having children. So we got the younger sisters having children who didn't want to listen to their parents. So now you got a whole generation of children who didn't listen to their parents, raising another generation of children who do not listen to their parents. And they believe the streets and, outside world and TikTok and YouTube and all those things are better friends. And they're withdrawn from reality. And we have to fix that as a community, as a whole-based community. So that's job as mother. What I want to give to advice to some young mothers, because that's some of the things that we're talking about. I'm going to go around the circle and try to see what each one of us may have to say about that. But what I would give some advice to young mothers that have young children. You do not have to raise your children on your own. And so a lot of mothers may not have anyone, and they may feel like that they're on their own, but there's a lot of communities out there to assist with you helping to raise your children. And listen, you can contact us here. We have our email, realmorstalk@yahoo.com. We want to help and assist you in raising your children better, because we do not want our children to fall into circumstances, where we wind up having to raise money for lawyers, trying to get them out of jail, which is that dungeon, which the prophet said we should not be in there more than 24 hours. More than 24 hours. I know when they tried to lock my son down, I wasn't leaving that place. I wanted him out within 24 hours, like the prophet said. We do not even supposed to be in that dungeon for more than 24 hours. So we need to try to get our brothers and sisters out of those places within a 24-hour time frame, because it's a very key what the prophet said. Back then, 24 hours, was not a big deal. Like people say 24 hours, all that now sounds cool. When the prophet was saying that 24 hours, because 24 hours is a whole entire day. You know what can transpire in a whole entire day being locked in that dungeon. So we're not supposed to get there, but if we do get there, then we're supposed to try to get us out of there within that time frame. So there's science about how behind that. Those are things that we need to do as mothers, fathers, leaders, and protectors in our Moorish community to help with that. A lot of Moors don't want to listen, because all they want to know is if I don't pay mortgage, if I can't pay my rent, how can I stake the land, and how can I get fiat, and how can I what I can get, not what I can learn from it. It's not about that. This is the whole purpose of the organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America. I say it all the time, was the uplifting of fallen humanity. The prophet showed you by demonstration, as Ty spoke about earlier. We fell so low, that's mother, that the prophet had to come and pick us back up out of the murky ethers and put us back on a solid rock of foundation. That's why he's stepping his foot on that solid rock. And Taj talked about those 9 drops of water, which we know is 9, the feminine, the 9, which is what? When you talk about 9, because you ever talk about 7, but the number of 9 is the one that's infinite, because no number comes after 9. Everything else is 0. After 9 comes 10. Well, if you look at it, that's a 1 and a 0. All right, so you're starting over again. 9 is the number of completion. It's everything is done on a number 9. And so the prophet let us know that should be the last time the teardrops come down from the woman, the last time. So not just the brothers, but the sisters too. We have to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and connect together with one another. And to me, that's what Mother's Day is all about. I love being a mother. And one of the things I say is because, we have a whole generation that they're pushing of men who want to try to be women. That's what they want to do. But they can't give birth. What makes you mother, what makes you a woman, they can't give birth to the woman. They want to try to take our place. And so we have to teach our children better. So maybe our sons will come up with a better chance of life than what they're doing right now. But I love being a mother. I'm grateful every single day for my children. And a lot of the sisters and brothers call me mother. And I appreciate that too, because as I talked about earlier in the acronym of mother, is also a role model. All right. So mother is one that's a motivator. She motivates, right? That's one of our things and responsibilities as mothers. Those acronyms, you can put whatever you want in front of those acronyms. But mother is one that's a giver and protector of life. By instinct. By instinct, we protect. By instinct, we nurture. By instinct, we care. And that's what I love about being a woman, being mother, is that natural instinct to be able to want to continue to care and take care of and nurture. No matter what, it could be somebody who did you so wrong, stumped you down in the ground or whatever, and they need assistance. By nature, that's what we normally do. We give, and we give, and we give. And a lot of times, because we do that, we're taken advantage of. So we have to learn how to also protect ourselves as mothers. And so I am so grateful for the wisdom and knowledge that I get and understanding the teachings and lessons of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and so many others who have taught us about who we are and our responsibility as mothers and women. And giving a special honor to Ancient Mother's Day for all sisters, more sisters, because the Prophet said the only holiday that he saw that the Europeans got right was honoring mother, right? And we know we should honor mother every single day. You know, every single day you honor your mother. Be grateful to thy mother, for she gave thee life, right? That's the Prophet tells us. But some of us don't want to do nothing but cry about it after we mistreat our mothers. And I'm saying this, you know, it's a movie, The Imitation of Life. My oldest daughter loves that movie and watched it over and over again. The one thing I got from that movie is that girl despised her mother. She didn't want to be around her mother. She didn't want responsibilities of knowing who she was. She was trying to be somebody else. And her mother kept reminding her of who she was. When her mother left this physical form, she literally almost lost her mind. Because when that physical flesh is gone, we know about the metaphysical. We know that, you know, you could reach out and listen or whatever, but that physical carnal touch is no longer there. That vocal tone that your mother has is no longer there. So you don't get the physical attributes of your mother and the vocal tone of your mother. Even though you might hear it in your ears, you don't get to hear that anymore. So once your mother is gone, that's it in the physical. So what we need to do is make sure we honor our mothers as much as we can while they are still here. I just recently lost my mother, you know, and one of the things that I wanted to do, because me and my mother, because of the differences in belief, we were not on the same page. My mother always tried to be at odds with, no matter what she tried to do, I always tried to fit in with her and try to connect with her no matter what. And you know what? I am grateful for my experience on doing that, because now my mother's gone. So I can't have that fight with her that we normally would be having about beliefs and information and things like that, because she's no longer here. So we want to talk about not only your mother here living, but also those of us who've lost our mother. So we're going to go around in a circle and talk about that, and talk about some advice we can give the young mothers and the importance of preserving values and legacy. All right, and with that, I'm going to go first to Sister Umi Il. I'm going to come to you first, and then we're going to go around the circle. All right, there you are.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yes. So just speaking, yeah, the loss of my mother, you know, it was like in 2009 is when she transitioned, and I remember I saw her like a few minutes before she transitioned, and every single day I always said, you know, Ma, I love you. You know, anytime we leave out the door. That particular day, I was like, all right, Ma, see you later. And it was just me being a teenager, you know, had other interests going on at the time. And for a long time, like after she transitioned, that bothered me because I was like, I told my mother I love her every single day. But then it took me a little while to heal over that and to realize, you know, well, you know, I love you. It's not just saying it, it's a verb. And as I got older, I realized, you know, that okay, I always showed her I loved her, even though, you know, we had our moments, you know. Um, Anybody who has a daughter, you have it, and you go through those teenage years, you know, you have those moments where you don't always get along, but I did show her, you know, that I loved her, even in moments where we didn't agree. You know, we could come back and we could talk, and I'm just very grateful, you know, that I didn't have an argument with her that day. You know, that rising, I combed her hair like usual, styled her hair up because, like I said, at the time, you know, I was growing up. I was in a circle, and so we were going to went to a circle that rising, and yeah, so you know, I'm just grateful. That's one of the good things. I'm grateful that we didn't have any arguments, no tiffs going on at the moment. And when she, and I can say that there was no guilt and no, how can I say, no regrets when it came down to, just looking over our life together. So that's one thing I can say, learning from her transitioning, um, it taught me a valuable lesson as to, like I knew to appreciate her and, give thanks, but even more, I was just grateful that that she was the type of mother that didn't allow us to argue, didn't allow us to, go to bed and be upset with each other. You got to talk it out. Nope, I'll give you an hour, and then, then we can come back and we can talk about it. Um, I hope I answered the question with
Oh
this
yes,
experience.
wonderfully. We appreciate, yes, all the wisdom that's dropped about it. Yes, because mother is important. The prophet knew how important mother was. He said,
Yes,
"Be grateful to thy mother, for she gave thee life." He
yes.
knew that how important mother would be because he had a mother.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Shukran for that. I'm going to go now to Sister Anna Ill. I know you can't probably wait to get off the line, Sister Anna Ill, because I know it's late there, but I love you to life, Sister. Yes, go ahead and share a few more words of wisdom for us being a mother and losing a mother.
Yeah. I was going to say funny enough, but it's not funny. My son is now the age that I was when my mother transitioned. So he's 45, and hmm, it 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 makes me want to take care of myself better to make sure that I can be around a lot longer for him, because I know what it feels like for me, for her not to be here. To see my children, her grandchildren, grow up and see the men that they've become, and to see her great grandchildren. So it's this year that he turned 45 has inspired me to take better care of myself. Um, I know we're speaking about mothers, but because I have two sons, my father, who my mother was his second wife and I was the only child, he always had this edict for all of us: fear me more than you fear the policy enforcers. And that's something that I instilled in my boys as far as when they were going out with their friends. Now, be mindful of what you're doing and mindful of what they are doing, because I'm going to tell you, if you think that they're doing something that you know that I'm not going to be happy with, bring your behind home. It doesn't matter if they want to call you names or make fun of you. Bring yourself home so that you're, one, you don't get injured, or two, you don't get involved with the police. So that was something that my father taught all of his children, and I raised my two sons with that ringing in their ears every time they went out. But as for mothers, young mothers, please stop using your children as pawns in the game of trying to hurt their father. To reinforce what Brother Dohuti said, um, they're little beings, they're little versions of you and their father, and you bad mouthing their father, and Lord knows there was a lot that I could have bad mouthed their father about, but where would it get me? My philosophy was, I don't have to say anything. They will see eventually who their father is by his actions. So I never said a bad word about their father, no matter what he did, how he treated me. Um, they grew up. I mean, they respect him as being as their father. But as far as me saying bad things about him, I never went there. But young women, yeah, stop using your children as pawns. And I must disagree with you a little bit, Grand Sheikh, because with Brother Dehuti was saying about the welfare system. When I came back to the UK, I was on the welfare system, but I didn't take my children's father to for child support. And I used to work in Wall Street when I was in America, so I got the London paper where all the brokerage houses and everything were situated in London, and I lived in Birmingham, which is the middle of Birmingham. Anybody who lives in New York could equate it to the distance from traveling to New York to Pennsylvania. So I would every Tuesday this specific paper came out that would advertise those jobs, and I would walk to the train station because that was the only place that sold it, and get that paper till I found myself a job in London, but I lived in Birmingham. So I traveled every day 120 miles there and 120 miles back to put a roof over my boy's head, because I was not going to depend on the government. Their father wasn't helping me, so I had to get up and do. So initially, back in those days, the buses, well, for me to get to London, I'd have to leave the house, get a train for 5 o'clock in the morning. So I would walk from my house to the train station to get a train for 5 o'clock so that I could get to London for 8 o'clock. And then I'd catch a train back to Birmingham. So you don't have to depend on the government to raise your children. You can find something to do. It might not be as extreme as what I had to do or what I did because of the skill set that I had. But you can find, if washing people's clothes, ironing, whatever it is, it can't be too menial if it means you can put bread on your children's plates, food, clothes on their back, and a roof over their head. As I said to my youngest son when he let me know that I was going to be a grandmother, I said to him, your time, your life, your energies do not belong to you anymore. Everything you do is because you have to take care of that child you are bringing into this world. And I think that is something that our young men and women have to understand. When you, as you said, Grand Sheik, stop sleeping around and producing these babies, because there is a cost. And if you're not willing to sacrifice yourself and your time and your energy to provide for that child, to nurture that child, to make sure that child is disciplined, and an important, really important thing you said, you are not your child's friend. You are your child's parent, and that child needs structure, that child needs discipline. When they get to their latter teenage years in their early 20s, then you can become their friend, but not before that, because you can't command the respect if you try to be their friend when they're a child. Well, they don't understand the difference at that age. So you know you're making a rod for your back if you go down that route. But when you make the decision to have a child, your time is not your own anymore. Every waking hour and every sleeping hour belongs to that child. And I yield the floor with that.
Hey, Shukran. And the only thing I want to say with that is I hear you saying, but then you have to leave your home to go to work, and who's raising your children then? See,
Well,
so
fortunately for me, I had an 11-year gap between my two sons. So
yes,
my older son could walk my younger son to school, because the school was, and two, there was a difference between living in New York, in Brooklyn, and living here in England. You know, there wasn't the dangers that were prevalent on the streets of Brooklyn that in England. So I could take that risk in having my 11-year-old take his brother to, well, you know, he wasn't 11, he was a 13 at the time, walk his brother to school and, be home for him when we came back from school. But yeah, I do, understand that my example was extreme, but these days there's things you can work from home. You can find something that fits in with the school hours. Sign up with your school so that you're in the house, while they're going to school, and you can do something while they're being taught by yourself and the other teachers. There's options out there. So, but if there's, you don't have any other option, then yes, that is the route you have to go.
Yeah, circumstance. We don't want to be out in the street with our children.
No.
Islam, shukran for that. All right, we're going to get real quickly to let the poems be read. I'm so excited about the poem. Shukran. Brother Madudi, up first. Let's hear your poem. I'm excited about the poem. All right, Madudi, I'm going to pull you straight up, and there you are, my brother. I think you're on mute, Madudi. Let me see. Can you not unmute yourself? Let's see. Let me see if I can unmute you. There we are.
There we go.
All right.
Islam. Okay. Before I go on the poem, I want to say this and be real clear about it. I love, honor, and respect all divine feminine. For real, for real. Okay. And this is in honoring our M-others, because that's how we could look at mothers, because all others come from their mothers. Divine feminine has XX chromosomes. Divine masculine has XY chromosomes. The Y is missing a line compared to the X. So the X is mores, and can open more doors. Remember, all masculine. We only have 3 lines. The feminine has 4. Welcome, matriarchs. With mutual love and unity, we will accomplish a lot. Together, we have it all. A lot and Allah. Why is why? Why must we all die? Do we die? Or is death like love? Is there love? Or just a word to describe that which is above? Is there an above? If so, why? Because it, Allah, a lot, Allah, and much love. I am my duty. Love and unity is my duty. Aren't we beauty? Beautiful equals be you to the full. Much honor, love, and respect, feminine. Thanks for listening.
Shukran. All right, beautifully done. We're going to bring up our National Grand Sheikh for his poem.
Islam,
Grand Sheikh.
This is one of the poems I wrote for my mother on her solar return. But I wrote this one the year she passed form. Al Cruasante. Swift of air, the falcon flies. Would to see the plight below. Long has been the unclean hands to write off truths for lies. Non pro tunc is now for then. Workings of an eye newborn, Tell me now, sweet memory, we've always known the when. Come now, little ones, so dear, attend the workings of the wind that blows and twists to cleanse the lands and arc the waters clear. Thought they now that I was sleep, thought they true that I be torn, yet I bring to upper realms the demos buried deep. Nuba day and Nuba sun, uplift Ankh, our crew Asate, envoy molt, and wretched plan, yet battle's fate has won. Swift of air, the falcon flies. Hail a time when we would know, and thought renewed on high now stands. Lo, spirit never dies. Our Matri was, shall Matri be, a covenant to earth reborn, and worthy ones to take the helm beyond all dreams or reverie. July 4, 1982.
Shukran for that, Grand Sheik. I'm going to really quickly read. So I broke down the acronyms of mother. I'm always doing that. M is for motivator, the one who inspires me to rise each day with confidence and determination. O, is for organizer, the one who always kept things going in the right direction, no matter whether I agreed or disagreed. T is for teacher, who patiently shares wisdom, values, and lessons that will remain with me throughout my life. H is for the healer, whose comforting words and caring hands bring peace to my heart when I am hurting. Encourager, one who believes when I doubt myself and reminds me that I can keep moving forward and do anything. And role model, whose strength, dignity, and compassion show me the kind of individual I aspire to be. This is for my mother. To my mother, she's on the ancestral plane now. Your love has guiding light. Your wisdom is a steady foundation, and your kindness is a gift that enriches my life every day. Thank you for motivating me, teaching me, healing me, encouraging me, and showing me by your example how to live with honor and purpose. I cherished every day that you were here on this earth. And so you see, there's so many different things we could say to our mothers to honor our mothers. And, if I always say take some time if you've lost your mother to you can sit down and meditate on some of the things you could say if they were here and just speak that out into the ancestral plane and, get that grabbed on too. But remember to always honor mother no matter what. It is our responsibility and duty. And I'm not saying just for men and children, I'm saying we as women. We have to honor each other because we're mother. We have to take care of ourselves and honor each other, help each other, assist each other, love each other, take care of each other. If you look back on the time in ancient times in what they call today modernly Africa, you see those women before they become colonialized, they lived together in villages. When the one family fed, they fed everybody. When they were giving baths to children, they were bathing all the children, giving all the children baths, taking them, putting them to bed. I learned a lot from a woman from the Ivory Coast where she wanted me to marry her son. And she was so excited about who I was. And she was telling me she couldn't wait for me. If I didn't want to come there to have children, that she would come here. And I was a very young sister at the time. But she literally let me see that, I would have loved to done the way that they do things back then. Like, she said I would come there and help you with the children and take care of them and do those things. So we need that community back. So as Sister Anna was talking about having to leave her home 120 miles away to find some employment or work, that we shouldn't have to do that. We should be able to have, if there's someone there to keep an eye on the children, if we have to go out and gainfully get work for us to eat or pay bills. But we do not do a community anymore. You see, everybody grows up and want to get their own house, want to separate, get away from their parents as much as possible. That's all colonialism. That's that colonial occupying mind to separate you from the strength of your families. But we do not see that. We see that as want to grow up and have our own things, and you thinking that's your own thoughts, but you've been programmed that way because that's not originally our culture. We stayed together in unison as a culture and a tradition as people. And now we've gotten so far away from that. The question in our minds is, how do we get it back? All right, so I want to go ahead and just get a closing remark from everybody. We're going to go ahead and close out. You know, we went a little time over, but that's okay. I just want to give everyone the opportunity to say a closing out, and we'll close out. And I just want to thank everyone for being on this episode of Real Morris Talk, because I think this is a very important episode. You know, we have to talk about these things in our community. First, we'll start with Sheik Bilal. Bey, did you want to say anything in closing, Sheik?
Yes. I would just like to say that quickly out, you know, our guide is always, you know, wisdom, and wisdom is always looked at in my understanding as feminine. It's the guide. But unity, we have to, you know, unify ourselves in order to save ourselves, because we can't do nothing if we ain't unified, right? We have to always keep that in mind, no matter where we at or what we doing. And I pass it back to you, Prime Minister.
Shukran for that closing remark. We're going to go to Sister Umi Il for any closing remarks, Sister Umi. My sister.
Yes. I just want to say thank you for having me on. And even though I don't have any children, that, you know, maybe I gave some wisdom today that may help. And I definitely will say that, you know, that learning from each other is where we need to remember that we need to learn from each other, you know, whether it's from youngest to oldest.
That's
You
right.
have to keep that in mind, that, you know, we're always a student. And at times, you know, we'll be a teacher, but we're always a student and learning from each other. And also discerning the wisdom, discerning with wisdom, who to learn from, because sometimes, you know, some things that people try to teach may not be so correct, but then that's where you have to have the wisdom to say, okay, I can take from this and leave the rest. So that's all I have to say with that, and I yield.
And shukran for being my guest today. I appreciate it so much.
You're welcome.
Yes. Brother Maduti, any closing remarks for us?
Yes, yes. In closing, I'd like to say I'd like to thank you and Grand Sheik Taj Tariq Bey for doing what you're doing. You know, y'all have made a very positive difference in my life, you know, and to all the other Moors worldwide, make the effort to set aside our differences, because we all have differences. You know, there's no two of us that's going to agree on everything all the time. But please, let's agree to disagree without being disagreeable. Let's come together and make things happen for our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, generational wealth. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Prime Minister, for allowing me to be on your live. And thank you for being a part of my life. You know, I'm going to share, I got to share this, y'all, in closing. Not too long ago, less than a year ago, I thought I was on my way out of here. I thought I was transitioning. And Prime Minister came to my domicile twice to visit me. That meant the world to me. See, real people do real things. Prime Minister is my friend. She's not just Prime Minister. She's my friend. I love her with respect and honor. And thank you for being a part of my life, Prime Minister. And I'd like to get closer to all of you Moors worldwide. because I got nothing but love for you, baby. Thanks for listening.
Yes, Shukran. Yes, I love you to life, Mo. Love you to life. Yes, Sister Anna Ill, any closing remarks for us? My beautiful sister over there on the other side in the UK.
Again, thank you for allowing me to participate in this much needed discussion. There's no shame in asking for help, mothers. It's a sign of strength rather than a sign of weakness, because you recognize that there's something that you do not know or you do not have. And as Mother Umi said, I've lost my train of thought. Be discerning on who you ask for help. Not everybody is on the right page, and you take a bit from here, a bit from there, but more importantly, look for the elders in the community that are willing to help, and please put your phones down and pay attention to your children.
Yes.
When your children are asleep, that's when you pick up the phone. But when your children are awake, put it down. Focus on your children. Focus on what you need to do to make for their day ahead and days to come. We got to get back to that community of raising our children. And I mean, right now, when I came back to the UK, I came back to live in my son's apartment. So me and my older son do live together, and my younger son lives just across the hallway from us. So my grandchildren are in and out, every day. So that community living is definitely has kept me on my toes. So it's keeping me young, but I'm so grateful that I have my sons and my grandchildren around me, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But thank you, Prime Minister Grand Sheikh. Thank you, because you were the missing piece that I was looking for, and when I see you, I'll be kissing your feet. Believe me, you don't know. You were the piece that I was looking for, and Grand Sheikh, thank you for bringing this together and keeping this conversation front and center, because it needs to continue. We need to grow. We need to build. I yield.
Shukran. Shukran. Nobody Shukran. Grand Sheikh, any closing remarks, Grand Sheikh?
Islam.
Islam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Shalom. Miyam. Bonabort. Anyway, again, we can't say Happy Mother's Day enough, really, but we can say it with more honor and integrity and good intent. And so with that, I say Happy Mother's Day every day. And, we're looking at and conversing with a lot of the systems or symptoms that have come about relative to us not comprehending or understanding our history, our heritage, and the matriarchy and what it really means to humanity. So when we talk about honoring mother, we're talking in the metaphysical, spiritual realm, we honor our mothers. When we talk about it in the civil realm, in the physical form for protections, etc., we talk about nationality. Happy Mother's Day. I yield the floor.
Shukran, Grand Sheikh. Shukran. And that I want to say shukran again for coming to episode 16 of Real Morse Talk. It's been my absolute pleasure to share this time with you on Real Morse Talk about mother. It's so important. I want to say again that one of the things most important is learning about is taking care of mother, because as mothers, we have to take care of ourselves. All right. So again, I want to say to everyone, thank you for taking the time. We did go a little over today, but sometimes it's necessary. But until next time, next Thursday, I want you all to take care of yourselves and each other. Assalamu alaikum, Moors.
Walaikum salam.
Alaikum assalam.
Walaikum assalam.